still gave 32% of their votes over to Ever, a higher vote than QG got earlier in the day. So some confidence in this Korean team coming out. But there we go, the Bard actually being banned out by Ever themselves.
I think it's the easier, like the Leona thing, I think it was like a massive whiff I was going on with, but I think you have this room to put up the target bans on the blue side, and on the red side, of course, you also have the room to squeeze in that ban for Bard.
Yeah, so H2K taking out that Bard right away first thing. And
oh, wow. Ooh. Well, first, before we even touch on the new champion, just look at the bans. Like, we talked about, what was Ever going to bring out something more that we kind of expected from the tournament. This looks much more solid and kind of what we expect of just the general OP champions. Lulu's not getting through, Gangplank's respected, Trundle's respected, and then target bans across from H2K.
So yeah, Catherine, of course, the one champion that is blue side banned here, which tells me that H2K maybe wants to go for like a Victor or something, like a safe blind pick mid lane that they don't have to care about anything.
I feel like the trend might be like similar to what they did yesterday, was when they blind picked the Anivia, which was the go-to blind pick for Ryu.
Yeah.
He got counted by the Kassadin and they eventually lost that game.
Yeah. Yeah, he did have a very rough game in that first one, but they are just going to pick up the Alistar.
Alistar first pick. I'm not sure if...
with Mundo, with Elise, with Kindred, with all these power picks on the board, the fact that, again, we're seeing an Alistar prioritized.
I'm not a big fan of the Alistar first pick because it already locks you into like the support matchup. I mean, sure, Alistar's like a okay choice, but they're like better choices. Of course, Mundo being one of them. We have seen what Mundo can do, that he's actually not being able... You can't kill him. At a certain stage of the game, you cannot kill Mundo anymore. And I wouldn't be also Lissandra. Lissandra has been banned in like most of the games we have seen so far, but we actually haven't seen like a really good Lissandra yet. And Lissandra is, of course, there's like the dual flexibility here, which gives Evan, of course, a really good strategic edge right now.
And it's important to note that both Crazy and Athena have shown this champion, so it actually can be flexed between both of them.
Yeah, that's definitely an important note. Now, with the Alistar, does it perhaps by any chance kind of show that maybe they want to toy with the Misfortune now that Trundle is out?
I think, in my opinion, I feel like they should opt in for the Lucian and also go for the jungle pick
right
here.
Lucian's
just to hold onto their cards in the solo lanes for as long as possible. Just pick up the Lucian.
Lucian Kindred would be really good here.
Yeah.
I think. Kindred is kind of like, has a really good matchup into Mundo because she's ranged, and the way her stack work, like the ability to stack up things, she does more and more damage more as she stacks it up. Plus, she's like kind of soft counter to like Lissandra because of the AoE and ultimate, and you can just save a target from being bursted down.
I mean, really, the idea is if you have more options to kite Mundo and burn him down, that's the only way to deal with him.
Yeah, you're not going to win face on.
Lucian being locked in, Rek'Sai a bit... I mean, okay. Probably wants a bit more early pressure. Maybe focus on like mid lane with like a Blanc or something, what they set up here.
It's not a Nidalee at least.
It's not a Nidalee?
It's like,
that's true.
Nidalee has been picked 9 times in 9 games in this tournament. I just want to buy a Nidalee plushie and burn it to the ground. That's how I feel about it now. But thinking about Rek'Sai as a champion, I feel like he's decent into every matchup. So it's like, I'm always okay with Rek'Sai.
It's a safe pick.
It's safe because you can always choose your battles with the tremor senses. You can back off, and you're very mobile on the map. That Jankos has proven in the past that he can use of very efficiently.
Look at this, man. It's like, they still flex everything. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, other than Kalista, you kind of still have no idea.
You have no idea what... They can still go into, like, everything. They can even last pick a Kindred to see if their comp allows it. Shen support, being okay. Put them in the jungle, Shen top lane, pick another support. It's...
Holy cow.
Everything is open, man. This is, like, next level.
And this is a strength of Ever. I mean, the big thing is that they came into the new patch for the Caspa Cup and they showed the best dominance over it. Probably CJ Intis was probably the next team, which, of course, those were your 2 finalists. But the issue with, the Tigers, KT, Rolster, and SKT is they looked like they were paying 5.16 on 5.18. And it's nice to see that Ever have continued this prep. So it tells me that their support structure actually is fairly strong. They do have a gaming house. Obviously, they lost to Spinu, unable to qualify for LCK, but they got a lot of sponsorship after that. And it looks like it's done work for them because their draft looks great right now.
I mean, this is like...
H2K needs to pick Fiora, I guess. I think they should opt in for the Fiora here because it has a guaranteed good matchup into anything that is sent into top lane. With the Rumble in the picture, if you send the Shen top lane now, it's so easy to pressure the Rumble into the ground.
They can still last pick Renekton technically if Fiora would be locked in, but she isn't. But I'm just saying, it's like so many options for Ever right now that...
But to be fair, it's like Fiora does pretty well into most matchups. There's no like hard counters, but it is a very, very safe blind pick, which this tournament has shown.
I was about to get super excited about the Varus. I personally love Varus showing up, but are we going to see that? No. The option's still open, but like you guys said, I mean, the point here is that Ever can do whatever they want with this fifth pick and still make something out of it. Like, they could really just random and they would still be able to make something out of their composition, just given the flexibility in their first 3 picks. Over the other side, Victor also coming out just kind of as a staple return so far in this tournament.
Yeah, I don't think after the game that Ryu had yesterday on Anivia, I don't think he feels too confident on it. Because I think that was his worst performance. And then you compare it to his other 2 games, which were insane in comparison.
And there we have it. The Varus gets locked in. What do you guys think about Ever and the way they chose their picks then, and then rounding it out with Varus?
This is like one of the most intelligent drafts I've seen.
Yeah.
Like, this is probably like the champion selection. If you can see, they don't do the mistake of drafting themselves into a situation where they pick champions for the top lane already. They keep flexing through like the whole draft until like the last pick, and it's like one of the most intelligent drafts that you can do probably on this patch right now.
It's also a very well-balanced composition in terms of where their power spikes are hitting and kind of the tools that they have on it. You have poke, you have hard engage, you have late game scaling, objective control, vision control with Callista sprites, and global ultimates with Shin having that stand united as well as a teleport in the top lane.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting first look this weekend for Ever. Can they get the lead against H2K? So far, the picks say they should be able to. We'll find out as we go into game number 1.
Yes, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to IEM Cologne. It is the second semi-final ever going up against H2K. Thank you for joining us yet again. My name is Uber, and I'm here with a man who I've watched for quite some years, even before getting into casting, Papa Smithy. An absolute pleasure to have you with me tonight.
Yeah, 2 Australian casters that have never quite got onto the same casting desk together, casting what is going to be a cracker ever. This instantly, just from picks and bans, have just put together the smartest pick and ban we've seen on the preseason patch so far. And this shouldn't come as a surprise. This is a team that went to the Kesper Cup. Okay, some of those big names like the SKT might have been on vacation mode, but Ever was playing patch 521 far superior than to any other team at the tournament. Now coming into patch 523, this is the team that locked in their spot at IEM Cologne first, and just from that first draft, seems like they've been doing plenty of practice so far.
Flex pick central forever, and they really managed to maneuver their way through that process well, but now obviously they maneuver through a different challenge. We are onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for game number 1. On the red side, it's going to be Ever, and on the blue, it will be H2K. It'll be interesting to see how they sort of react, because this looks like a little bit of a grouping here forever, maybe just Papa for some early vision.
Yeah, level 1s have been predictably fairly defensive this tournament as we're waiting for level 1 strategies to develop. Wow, Ares with the auto attack cancel that's granted by the E actually cancels out the defensive vision. You have to be so quick with your deep vision now that the game starts 15 seconds earlier. So hard to have both defensive and offensive vision. Plenty of offensive vision here. But seeing the backs, though, be super interesting to see whether a lane swap is gotten or if we see standard lanes here.
Well, H2K pinging down towards those wards, so they know Ever have forged forward and dropped some vision there so they can have a bit of early warning about any potential lane swap scenarios. It seems as if they would like to keep things as standard as possible, or at least be able to read into it. So there you go. Forgiven and Vander hugging the wall, still spotted out in that lane swap. You can see instantly on the mini-map, ESC's bot lane are moving towards the top side.
You can see they're looking for the 2v2. That's what they're trying to opt into here. Uniquely, Kalista as a champion with the passive is able to dodge Piercing Light from Lucian. Most champions can't deal with the harass coming through there, but can do that. And now Ever's going to have a lot of power on the top side. You can see 5 champions on the top side. Going to be late to have Lissandra hit lane, but they're going to get the 2v2 that whole level 1 was orchestrated to set up.
Exactly, and we'll see them move towards lane and probably won't miss out on too much experience here, though, as Vander already checking to see if anyone was going to be there to greet him, and it is Key and Loken there. Of course, Key of Zenix Storm way back, played in the LSPL for a little bit as well before returning to Korea on that Shen support. And Crazy as well makes his way down bot.
Zenix Storm's one of those names you just have to whisper to long-term Korean viewers, and they all think about what could have been. So many great players, like the likes of Peekaboo, have passed through the Zenix Storm organization. They never fielded that 5-man lineup that could have been, but they put together some great players, and as you mentioned, another one on the Rift here.
Yeah, many distinguished players actually coming out of that lineup. And of course, Key looking to make himself one of those now. It's already been a back and forth in the mid lane, and Athena finding he's losing out on that trait there as Ryu doesn't seem to be afraid to deal with this sort of mid-Varus coming out from Athena. It was that last pick as well. And I know Papa, I guess, maybe trying to put some pressure onto that Victor. We saw the picks from H2K, though. They all had to be pretty safe with so many flexes coming in.
The safety is going to be identified here. Waiting to see if Jankos will go for a turret dive. Thinking about it.
Athena is looking a little bit low here as well. Completely none the wiser to Jankos just sitting off here to the side, and Ryu just maybe hoping Athena just gets a little bit more forward, gets a little bit more cocky, but Jankos is going to go in anyway. The Praise Seeker, the flash, the Unburrow, it's all there, and one more order will get it done. First blood to Ryu.
Really nice, assertive move from Jankos. You could see the reason why Athena opted into those early trades is that he's gone for regen from level 1. He went for that corrupting potion, tried to take advantage of it by getting those early trades and then healing through. Of course, did not factor in the creative pathing you can do. Jankos showed it. They got the kill. Good smart flash for the auto attack from Ryu. And now on the back foot already. Both summoners down for the Varus.
H2K showing sufficient disdain for the picks from Ever, especially that Varus in mid, and Loken as well fancies a little bit of damage coming forward, as well as Key just flanks up on that side. So hard to always get that damage to stick towards his bottom lane combo here. And this is one of the few games that, well, in fact, the first, this weekend, that Forgiven's actually not played Tristana.
Exactly, he's been on Tristana Jude's definitely been prioritizing structure, Cologne. You know, every series we've had so far, this is the 4th series of IEM Cologne, has kind of had a different theme, and the theme for the H2K Cloud9 series was prioritizing structures over KDA, over anything else for Forgiven, you know, showing more of a Gambit playstyle than, of course, his heyday in SK, where he was the true high KDA, hyper carry, 80 carry, and in general, Ever's kind of showing us why lane swaps have kind of been a head scratcher, just because they invested so much in getting that early aggressive vision. 2 of their members got to lane late. They lost out on experience in both top and bottom lane, and now they've been preyed upon in mid. So theoretically, 4 out of 5 of their champions off the bat 5 minutes in, okay, maybe only by inches, are behind.
To see just how far behind it is, or how that translates as we move through into what is a much early game, mid-game, should I say, now as we do continue through. I mean, looking across the board here, no notable CS differences, really, with the exception, I guess, of Ryu with just that time he spent alone in lane to get slightly ahead of Athena.
Yeah, we won't talk too much about 4 or 5 CS. In the mid-game, okay, let's wait for some item completions. Getting ahead of yourself, Uber, let's just calm down. There's
Standard
been some
for me,
action.
bro. Standard for me. It has been said that Oduamne, you know, he's one of those guys that is still definitely preferred to go for that Rumble here as well, hoping a safer pick in this lane will give him an easier passage. But look at this, Ring of Frost coming out as well. He flashes the cleaver. He may not be able to get away yet, though, of course. The slow got to be coming into effect, and there's the cleaver hitting Oduamne, just struggling to get away from this one. He does able to pop the junk shield, moving forward. Ares, though, will just continue to chunk him down, and it's 1-on-1. Successful game for Ares.
And Ares is certainly the feel-good story of this Ever lineup. It was alluded to by Yamato. 1-14 was his record on IEM. In fact, he opened up the Kesper Cup playing Kindred, and one of the first Kindreds we saw in competitive. He looked pretty awful, if I'm going to be honest, Uber. He certainly was off the boil, but he got better and better over the tournament. His shot calling really shone through in that victory over SKT. And now he's making early aggression from Mundo work, whereas we've seen from the likes of Rush, much more of a passive early game from this Dr. Mundo that we know can scale up so immensely strong in the late game.
You can see he wasn't willing to leave that lane without that kill, burning his flash, but landing that second crucial cleaver. Still, these lanes are proceeding in as about a normal fashion as possible, I guess, in a game like this. See as well that we will have Ares returning to the jungle, but Cost is a little bit forward as well. But here, of course, in this top bottom lane, as we'll call it, very much back and forth, but Forgiven's better to eke himself a small lead.
Top bottom lane, come on, mate. This is the Australian man. Bottom lane's on the top.
We're upside down.
We've got it all upside down. That's a shout out to us because they have no idea we're casting this game, but we can take it anyway.
Oh dear. People do ask me how I deal with all the blood rushing to my head when I go home.
And Athena, he's thrown us a curveball. We haven't seen any. I mean, we talked about League of Legends Mythbusters. Everybody's got a pocket pick that they think's strong in the preseason. I know for me it was the Sion. I was like, all right, Sion's got it. No one can kill him. Varus is not one that I've heard brought up in conversation just because his itemization, particularly in the mid lane, it was all about very quickly reaching your power spike. It was Mana Moon into Brutalizer into Last Whisper. It was 3 items and then, man, your poke hits for so much. But Last Whisper is mostly gone, is crazy, posturing towards mid. Remember, Ryu just used his cleanse, so we could see a turret dive coming in shortly.
Aggressive positioning as well, especially with Ares off to the other side. The Yankos is on the scene relatively quickly there. Maybe not aware of Crazy's presence, but he'll still be taking away that camp. And this is some roaming happening from Crazy. He's going to return back to lane now as well. A bit of attention being put towards Ryu, you can see in the early stages. There's a recalls in the top lane as well. Forgiven and Vander, he's going to back off.
Yeah, remain to be convinced about the Varus itemization. Maybe we'll see something different. Just, you know, think of the 80 items added to the game, and certainly not Essence Reaver, just because you're not really going to be building critical strike or attack speed necessarily, specifically on mid Varus. Maybe we'll see something different, but that's certainly not been the way usually. With the tier, he's already committed to spending a lot of early gold on mana, so not needing to rush for the Essence Reaver. So is this just going to be a weaker overall item build because of the patch change for the Varus?
And of course, picking up that tier does delay that power spike if you're looking forward to it. You're not getting any of those hard-hitting stats that are really going to give you that extra kill potential. So, still question marks over this pick pupper. We have sort of been talking about it here, and Athena actually finding himself now slipping a little bit further and further behind in that mid lane, but maybe a blue buff to help him with that farm.
I mean, the one thing you can say, both these champions, immense line wave clear, whether it's the E coming through from Varus or the Q coming through, the E coming through from Ryu on the Victor or the Q coming through from Varus. Instant wave clear or near to that from a long range. Varus is trying something different. He started off soloing this dragon, gonna get a little bit of help from Key. We have seen next to no prioritization on dragon just because you don't want to swap anything for it, but only the support's time being swapped for it and fairly free dragons, so you'll take it even at 9 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, prioritization hasn't been big for that one. You can see Crazy just having to be a little bit careful there in that top lane as he is dealing with that 1v2. Interesting to see. We actually have had our Evers, AD carrying support, move towards the bottom side here as well. And Odoamne scratching his head a little bit about this one. He's going to throw an equalizer down, probably just a wave cleave, but he's caught by the Shadow Dash. Ares gets the cleaver in as well, and Odoamne, he's dead to rights. 3 Ever players surround him and take him out. And look at this, Stand United towards the top lane as well. Crazy, what's going to happen here? Key going forward, Jankos gets frozen, Tombs, but there, Key pushing forward, Forgiven's there. Vander, you see Key just at the front, but the rest of his team was not there with him. And it's just going to be the 1 kill going over to Ever.
And that was the one thing we didn't mention about that Kesper Cup run. This team runs double teleport like few I have seen. The coordination they have between members is spot on, and the Shen ult into instant teleport bought them basically a free objective. They got the kill. Now in the bottom lane, they're going to, at worst, trade turrets. There's so much wave clear coming through from Crazy that this turret's going to be delayed, if anything. Very nice global movement coming through from Ever.
So H2K can't capitalize on 3 members of Ever being in the bottom lane when Stand United is available. Of course, if the push comes to shove, Key could make a presence in that top lane now. Back to mid again, and you know, still that Varus has to play it slow. He has to deal with falling behind. Ryu is going to be amassing himself some farm, and now thought about going looking for something up there, but it will be Key heading back home.
I mean, the thing that was posed for Athena was that he understood he was going to be largely isolated in the mid lane in a 1v1 against Victor, so he needed comparable wave clear. You might be thinking, all right, why not just go for the Caston for the kill pressure? But you look down this lineup, the wave clear, it's decent from the Sandra, but otherwise it's fairly absent, so he wanted to just go for the wave clear. He understood that if anything went wrong, he might fall slightly behind, but he's not taking a turret pressure. Usually Victor will clear a wave, then either roam or get auto attacks onto the turrets freely. In this situation, turret's at full health, so he's doing his job despite the fact that it doesn't look like he's covering himself in any glory so far in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, and conversely, Papa, it looks like Ryu hasn't really been able to stray too far from that mid lane, not even too far forward, even going for those Raptors there, and return back towards that mid lane and continue doing his thing. And it's Jankos now on site. There's a pink ward in the bush, so for the most part, when you thought about it, you thought about going from that Raptor pit. We can see pings there coming from Ever. They did see him there. And still, right now, he is undetected in that bush. Ares, already alerted to his presence, is going to make his way down, ward straight in. Cleaver misses at a non-moving target, but we won't hold that against him. He did spot out Jankos, though, and we'll have to back up.
Yeah, multiple members around mid lane. Remember the Tremor Sense there as well. Might see the flash.
Fair enough, maybe, for him thinking he, with all the H2K people in that middle lane, he does get the flash away. Ares making his way down as well, and Odo and Forgiven actually just going to be linking up here in the bottom lane, and the culling to force Crazy right on back glacial path to ensure the safe escape.
And the structure game continues. This has been the H2K trademark. They're going to keep pushing in aggressively. Crazy still has ultimate.
Very aggressive stuff here. The Pulverize coming out from Vander. The tower beating down on them, and that's a frozen tomb for Crazy. He's going to keep himself alive and flash under that turret. Perfect stuff from him, avoiding that dive. And a fair bit of damage going towards Vander in the process. Forgiven does get his turret.
Insane that he didn't die there. Ares space checks Ryu.
Yeah, Ryu are going to have to deal with him. Does lock him up in that gravity field as well and gives him all the time he needs to back off. We see Void Rush as well from Jankos there, just in case he was needed. And in the meantime, Loken beating away at this top outer turret in the mid. A fight going to go down here. Athena is caught as well. A headbutt back towards the tower. Athena getting hit by those shots. There's too much damage for him to deal with. He's just a Varus. And now Key going to get knocked up by Jankos. He's pushing forward. The Umbarrow has been able to yield a bit of CC, but Key just limps away.
And it's one of the reasons why we saw Varus drop out of the meta, is this champion is so susceptible to getting flashed on by the likes of the Alistar. Really nice engage from Vander. We saw Taunt Flash earlier picking up kill for Key. Vander following in the footsteps of Key. Really nice pick. The wave clears down, but the health on the turret is still high enough that they don't lose that structure just yet.
And you know that's what H2K are wanting to go for here. So far, it's been tit for tat in terms of those towers. 2 apiece here, and a negligible gold difference, of course. Only Ever just sneaking that dragon out a little bit earlier on. So maybe starting to hit that critical mass. 13 minutes is what we talked about, is when that mid-game started to come around the corner now, and these two teams starting to display a proclivity for wanting to find each other, create picks, and actually start to push down these towers.
Only a small gold lead, but you can tell there's a big mismatch in terms of gold between Ryu and Athena. 30 CS and 2 kills. Looking at the values here, over 1,000 gold. More than the gold lead in the pocket of Ryu. Of course, if Athena just has to sit back and wave clear, it's not as big a factor, but if team fights come through, this Victor's certainly a lot bigger.
Vander misses the headbutt there, does get the Pulverize after being Shadow Dashed, and it is going to force ESC back. It's the culling for Forgiven, and there's the Umbarrow, but Loken, nice fate's call there as well, will get Key out of danger.
Backup wave clear available if they have Lissandra rotate to mid. So no picks coming through yet for H2K. With the serrated blade, it looks like the 180 item that they skipped out discussing, the Ghost Blade, still going to be very strong. This was always a Varus item. It's going to come earlier because of the item changes. The pushing continues, but with the backup wave clear, things should be okay for Ever in the mid lane.
You can see that Ever are dealing fairly well with the waves pushing in towards them. Jankos going fairly deep there as well, just for some vision, if I'm not mistaken. Pops a ward down, but Ares will be able to spot that out and clear it out. Very active, Jankos has been, of course, trying to use the ability to come from those different angles, but to see if he can remain relevant, of course, as that Mundo is going to get out of control as the game goes later.
Yeah, the S word, and in this case, scaling is the big question mark. Rek'Sai, so much early pressure, used, of course, for the level 3 game, but got this snowball for EU, but they need to turn that snowball into permanent gold, whether that's outer turrets, inner turrets, breaking the base. Eventually this Mundo will snowball out of control, and it's on the Rek'Sai. The onus is completely on Rek'Sai to take control of the game pre-25, 30 minutes, pre-2 health items and level 11 for Ares. Otherwise, Mundo, we've already seen plenty of previews of what this late game could look like forever.
That's right, becoming that indomitable force later on in the piece, and H2K looking to maybe cut things to the quick before that even becomes an eventuality, but Ares again, just a bit of cheeky cleaver in towards Jankos, and a Shadow Dash over by Key, looking for that pink ward as well, and you can see ESC respecting and prioritizing this vision, especially around this dragon area. Maybe even thinking of going for another one here as well. More of an inclination for Dragon than we've really seen yet this weekend.
Ever have some insane options when Crazy's teleports out. Remember, they have double teleport versus single, so 1-3-1 is a consideration. Lissandra's one of the strongest champions to get a home guard teleport flank on, because of course you have point-and-click suppression CC, or I guess, just stun CC coming through from the ultimate. Shen can also ult on top of the Lissandra for more of a CC initiation. Okay, it's only once every 5 minutes, but Ever's just concerned about keeping things even and then going to 1-3-1 consistently. And this was a strategy that brought them so much dividends in the Casper Cup.
It'll be that second dragon now being taken away by ESC. They were visible to H2K there as well, but Europeans in no position to really contest that one. But now, of course, in response, they move towards the middle. That outer turret still needs to be taken down. Ares might be a little bit caught here as well, but he's going to be able to pop that ultimate and get away. Health coming back towards him as the Chaos Storm does go down. There's Vander. He's getting the brawl as well. Headbutting Loken out of the way. And Athena now coming forward with that piercing arrow. H2K maybe realizing they're biting off more than they can chew.
H2K, they're sticking to the script that they wrote yesterday. They are not interested in fighting for first or second dragons. They will take a turret over dragon to the extent that they swapped Forgiven to top lane when dragon was up just to get turret pressure. So very big credit to Ever for navigating that situation, not giving up a pick and not losing their outer turret. They got the dragon for free, but that's the reality of patch 523, is that you only ever take free dragons, because structure for dragon, given how short the games are on average, always seems to be advantage to structure taker. So it would have been advantage H2K, if not for the emergency posturing from Ever.
Of course, weighing up the risk-reward profile between getting caught in that small area and actually coming away with the dragon. So ESC do get their second here as well. It's been a while since we've actually seen a turret taken down. These two teams keeping in step with one another across the map. Both of them trying to forge for some bit of deeper vision here. And you can see some of those wards now timing a little bit. There's a lot, of course, of those red wards on that river.
Surprising to see Ares is forced to go for team itemization. Aegis has been hit multiple times. Now it's less and less effective, both at this stage and completed for the wearer especially. No Spirit Visage means that Mundo's timer for being quite that Dr. Mundo we've seen in other games is going to continue to be delayed. Of course, it's against double AP, so it's very understandable, but still, Mundo's online timing, now we're talking more about 28, 30 minutes rather than necessarily Spirit Visage into Giant's Belt where Mundo's already crazy.
If the pace of this game is anything to go by with only 4 kills after 18 minutes, we may just get there. So gold leads all very similar as well. So teleporting towards the mid lane here as well, seeing that one being used by Athena. Might be a fight happening. Crazy goes forward. Ring of Frost towards Ryu, but there comes the Chaos Storm in response. A quick frozen turn to keep Crazy alive, and Keith found himself a little bit deeper than he would have liked. It's a Carling coming across that fight, but Ares, he's soaking up all that damage and he's quite happy to dust his shoulders off. Crazy avoids the damage coming from that equalizer here, but Ever having to back up a lot. H2K looking confident coming forward. Now going to get that mid outer turret.
You can see that Athena has to be so defensive in his position whenever Vander walks up. Vander's falling low, but still has ultimate. Will we see a fight here? H2K got what they wanted. Smart of them just to back away.
Ever might now make them pay for this one. Gravity field being used, and it will at least be able to stun up Ares, who is being an absolute threat with those cleavers constantly coming in, forcing that ultimate out of Vander just in case. And it might be a responsive tower take here forever. They managed to give enough ground without getting too low or losing really too many people, or anyone for that matter. And we'll have one back in response.
Despite some small positioning mistakes, don't force Crazy's teleport out. Don't force anything else. End up with an overall trade and no other advantage. So Ever will take that. And just the reality of having double teleport and a Dr. Mundo. The longer this game goes even, the more likely that Ever will scale into an advantage that is just dictated both by the global summoners and the Dr. Mundo jungle.
Set your watches, ladies and gentlemen, or clocks if you don't wear. And we're one of those, as we are now almost up towards 20 minutes in this game, and it has been tit for tat with those turrets, and the gold lead hasn't shown any sign of really increasing. We did highlight, of course, a goal difference between Rio and Athena, and that probably hasn't, sort of been rectified if you're ESC at this point. But, of course, overall, Ever looking like they are coming up with the tools, so they do understand how to respond to what H2K are doing. Where does the deadlock really break here, Puffer? Is it, a team extending too far for that tower, or, I feel like we're building up to something here as well, but it's very much dipping toes in the water at this stage.
What can H2K force? They're already behind 2 dragons. The reality of them taking the next 5 and winning from that, not really there. So that's, again, another reason why Ever can just sit back and wave clear from range. Baron, just spawning, is an objective that Ever would have to fight for, but Ever's slowly creeping towards the point where they can do that. So the question is, how does H2K push their advantage? It's usually going to be, if we're following previous logic, it's going to be Lucian looking for turrets. Of course, that was usually Forgiven on Tristana, but he's on Lucian this game. They need to start pressuring things, because if Ever's just getting uncontested blue buffs, clearing waves, it's just buying time for the inevitable.
Definitely, ostensibly, doesn't seem like Ever are being put under too much pressure here. And, there's Dragon. The Dragon counter there. 2, of course, right now for ESC. That's the Sleeping Lion. If they can get closer towards
maybe
that
he was a sleeping lion on the previous patch. He's really in a coma on this patch. The Dragon, do not worry about that number. Probably not going to go low. We see a flash.
Jankos going to be able to burrow away from that one, but Aries keeping in step with him, and Crazy's already gone so darn deep. It was a Ring of Frost, and there's a Frozen 2 towards Jankos. They've got the pick. ESC want to follow up on this one. Logan went quite low there to Ryu, doing damage to him on the side, and then trade the 1v1. Key went down. Crazy backing away there as well. Aries up at the front. I don't really know if ever we're going to find too much more here. The 1-for-1 for now. And these teams now just skirmishing a little bit back and forth in mid. That's the culling coming out. Forgiven wants to spread some damage. Oh, look at that one. Odoamne is caught by the Ring of Frost, and Athena dispatches him summarily.
Big mistake for HK to keep fighting. Remember, this is a Rumble top lane. Their only tank died first. That's Jankos. Vander's ultimate was down. No front line against all the poke and the double AD damage coming through from the Varus and Kalista. That is not the time to fight. Jankos has to be so smart with how he positions in fights, because he is truly the only front line for H2K once Vander's ultimate is down.
Now ESC can batter on towards his middle inner turret here. Forgiven, just trying to keep them at arm's length really, but a lot of damage is going to be done here for ESC, and I'll be very happy with that one. And as you said, perhaps the Dragon not really a consideration here, but maybe H2K are going to die by the same sword that they live. This aggression that they're bringing has now been turned on them for the second time in a row.
Looking for third Dragon at 22 minutes. That would be by far the fastest 3-Dragon stack. Remember, we've seen games where 90 minutes is the first Dragon that's taken. Jankos thinking about contesting. Remember, it's against Kalista, so realistically not going to be able to pick it up. Third Dragon means, again, we'll only whisper it, still the Coma Dragon, but still, it is an outside possibility that a 5th Dragon win condition might exist, even on patch 523.
Seems like Ever are happy to, try and apply pressure in whatever way that they can, aside from just trying to barrel their way in towards H2K's side of the map there. Third Dragon for them here again. Maybe not the most notable thing at this stage, but what we're more looking towards is how the behavior of H2K has sort of been a consistent thing here. Coming forward, going for these fights, sort of trying to back away, and then ESC saying, well, all right, I'm going to send a cleaver your way, and then we're going to see what we can sort of carve out of you in response. And, I mean, bit by bit, it doesn't seem like much. This gold difference is still essentially the same. So on paper, it doesn't look like a big lead, but almost it's a qualitative thing that we're seeing here.
I mean, the thing that HK need to do is to find a way to flank specifically Athena. One of the reasons they chose Varus last pick, because you look down HK's lineup, there's no Malphite, there's no true hard engage. Their top lane is Rumble, who can control space with his ultimate and do damage, but again, it's going to be causing any sort of initiation. Unless they can get some flank wards, if Athena can just freely queue from distance, remember, this is a patch where outer turrets are much weaker. In general, turrets are effectively paper thin, so double AD against turrets, they chunk one person out, take a turret, rinse and repeat. Ever catches Jankos.
There goes Void Rushes straight away, goes into that one. He didn't know what he was going to be going towards, but Logan's going to be there to meet him on the other side of the wall, and Jankos gets picked off there as well, and ESC going to be happy to force the 5v4 here. A little bit of damage from Ryu, warning shots perhaps towards Aries, and ESC now just going to set up here as well and towards his mid side.
Just a mistake from Jankos. Didn't have the defensive vision. Just didn't anticipate that anyone else was around. Logan taking a lot of damage from the culling, but Jankos cannot afford to use his ult quite that aggressively.
And again, that front liner for H2K is down. And now Crazy as well, feeling comfortable enough just to build away at this top turret as well. While all this is happening, of course, while everyone starts to just back away, as I assume Crazy will do, will he be caught? I doubt it. Let's talk about Forgiven, Papa, as well, because he started to carve out a decent amount of farm. I mean, the CS lead is big for him, obviously down 2 kills, but what are your thoughts on how his role is going to be sort of, changing, or maybe how it's going to show itself in the next 10 or so minutes?
I mean, with the new itemization, you can't pigeonhole Lucian into any sort of early or mid-game AD carry. This is a champion that scales fantastically throughout the game, good at taking out turrets, very good in skirmishes and good in team fights. So he's gone largely uninterrupted, but this isn't ideal for a champion that does function somewhat as a lane bully, to have not picked up any kill consideration. Even though he's 60 CS ahead, I imagine the gold between the 2 AD carries is pretty comparable.
Similar indeed. So Forgiven definitely be looking to try and draw some blood in a meaningful manner in the coming minutes. It's a bit of house cleaning here for ESC as they do start to clear things around this Baron side. So maybe some focus being shifted in terms of where on the map they're wanting to try and dominate. Jankos there as well has to be careful. He's taking away that Gromp here. Kia as well is heading up towards the top of that map. He might have a catch here as well. Jankos yet again in his own jungle, being harassed. And Odoamne's presence off towards the side will at least dissuade further aggression.
And look, 2 teleports are up, so what are we seeing? 1-3-1 is the name of the game. in this patch, mages now do more damage to turrets just because of the changes that Riot put through in 5.22, so even better at split pushing than before. Don't need the Lich Bane to be able to put out respectable damage to turrets, and ever playing the percentage game, they've got double teleport. The onus is on H2K to make initiations, and we just already discussed it. They don't really have the best tools to do so. So the pressure game continues. Okay, maybe Ever doesn't break a turret, but it buys time. It keeps going, it keeps ticking. And whether it's Dragon win conditions, whether it's more items onto the Mundo, everything is happy reading if you're an Ever fan, if nothing changes in terms of the turret column or the gold lead between these two teams.
See now if H2K can, well, I mean, get themselves, I guess, into a commanding position as well with some characteristic aggression here. But like you said, hard to get those engagements, of course. It's going to be a decent unburrow from Jankos or Vander going in with the horns out in front there as well. And again, ESC making their way around this Raptor pit as well. H2K forced to try and eke what they can out of that little scenario. Just back and forth, and H2K as well does have his teleport up. He's down on the bot side. He's just trying to reduce some of the pressure being applied earlier on by Crazy.
It's one of those problems that can't really be rectified by itemization. Maybe a Rylai's coming through for a U on the Victor will give them a little bit of pick potential, 35. A nice slow coming through, particularly from the Q as it's a single target ability, but it's not really a problem you can rectify easily. And the double teleport, this is just the thing. It's almost like it's the prisoner's dilemma every time you're in champ select and you see control mids when you have to say, okay, but if I don't take teleport and he takes teleport, then we're kind of screwed when it comes to the 1-3-1 situation. The double teleport, even though it's a teleport Varus, and you're certainly not taking that teleport for any sort of engage, don't really want to be flanking with Varus, even though he has an initiation ultimate, much better used for disengage. The double teleport game propelled Ever past teams like SKT is on full display this game.
So you can see that the implied mobility from Ever, it does affect H2K's decision making here. You can see that they're a little bit nervously just jockeying back and forth in the mid and trying to keep in step or keep tabs on these Ever players so they know at least if something fishy is afoot. But right now it seems pretty straightforward. Straight down the mid, Loken there. Gonna be Fate's call. Ryu's gonna have to flash away from that one as well. But he got caught by the Ring of Frost to the side. Brilliant stuff. Crazy came in for the pincer maneuver. Vander popping his up very, very early on there as well. Crazy forced to flash away. And Stan United will keep him alive for now as well. But this fight may well swing down in towards the mid or have that mid in a turret as well. And do Ever want to go for more? Ares seems to indicate yes. It's a missed cleaver. And ESC now, just look at that, they're pushing up that battle line, that no man's land now is moving closer and closer to H2K's base. And ESC, oh, we got Mundo, and they're all going where they please.
It's going to be rinse and repeat. They have so much control over the map. They're actually teleporting onto a minion to keep it alive. They're going to get a lot of turret damage. They might even break the base here.
Oh, they're belt through here as well. That inhibitor turret does fall. And at what point do H2K have to respond to this? It's ESC getting aggressive. They're pushing them back right now. H2K already down to about half health. And then an inhibitor is down. Ever just pushing straight through as well. It was just a one pick or so that allowed them to push in, and look how much damage they've managed to inflict to H2K's base.
Will they kite back to the Dragon? Will they just go back, pick up some purchases and go split push other lanes? They still have one teleport available. The Dragon started. Everything is in the pocket of Ever. They've broken the base and taken an inhibitor. They've got 4 dragons in just a second. It's all academic in that regard. Ever, this team has not missed a beat. The first team to qualify for IEM Cologne has clearly put that practice time to good use because they are playing textbook League of Legends in a tournament that hasn't really shown any textbook. You couldn't write a textbook given how different the first 3 series of this tournament has been. And suddenly we're seeing just beautiful League of Legends played by Ever.
And after losing the LCK promotions, Ever actually, that was when they decided they're going to move in together. They were going to spend time playing. In the holiday period that most teams would have had after that time, they practiced for the entirety of it. Now, you can maybe see some of that's starting to manifest here. H2K, or H2 Days, I think is what they were sort of branded as after yesterday. They looked really, really strong. And even here, there is obviously, I mean, Gold League, not too much out of their control. But, I mean, we talked about it. I mean, and even Yamato pulled it up on the desk as well. Strong early game, or decent early game, at least comparable, but then those bad decisions might just start to creep in as the game goes longer.
But has it been bad decisions? I wouldn't really say so. I mean, wonderful early game from Jankos, got them ahead as they expected. It's just they haven't really been able to push in the early to mid game. And how many times have we said that? Every time we see a Mundo against the likes of Nidalee, for example, Nidalee team or the early game Power Spike team gets ahead, but only to a point. And then we eventually reach this late game to mid to late game reality where they're outscaled, and whether it's the double teleport or the Mundo, H2K played a very polished champion select. They were just beaten by a team that, had 3 flexes in the first 4 picks, and then could just pick Varus in a situation where there's just no Engage to get on top of him. Speaking of Engage,
Key's been called in and he's going to knock up Vander. And again, Crazy always coming in from the periphery. Manages to add some CC in there. But there goes Vander. He's going to be able to get the headbutt forward there. Key's in the middle of the mix there. Vander's going to drop down. It's a single kill for Loken there as well. Odoamne trying to push in and get rid of that AD carry, but a bit of heal coming out and a double kill coming out for Loken now as well. Somehow holding on to his dear life, and Forgiven is forced to flash the cleaver away and keep his distance. 3 for 0 there, Ever. Now they're baring their teeth. Now they're getting aggressive. And now they're pushing forward.
They might even be looking for the finish. Poetry in motion was that team fight from Ever. How did Loken have the fast feet to stay alive? Eris, nope, not taking any damage from turrets. I think late game Mundo's been achieved. And maybe they won't finish the game quite now, but with the death timers, might be time.
Look at the pressure they're putting on towards these Nexus turrets. It looks like they don't want to be stopped here. And Jankos again, got to get slowed up. It was a taunt towards Forgiven. Oh, everybody's falling. It's a bloodbath and Ever. They put their name all over this one. They will take down the Nexus, and game 1 goes to our Koreans. A strong showing in their first game of IEM Cologne.
I think myself and a lot of analysts were just wondering, is this the Ever we saw at the Kesper Cup? Was it a flash in the pan? Okay, it's only one game, but this one game was just academic. It was well brought down. They once again seemed to understand